Hi there, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at doing a Zentangle landscape. Okay, now Zentangle, it is a method which is really easy to learn. It's really relaxing, and it's quite a fun way to create beautiful images by drawing really structured patterns. So what we've got here is we've got some examples of Zentangle landscapes. You can see here that in order to create a Zentangle landscape or a Zentangle pattern, it is just literally a combination of dots, lines, simple curves, S-curves, orbs, etc. So you can see here you've got semicircles, we've got the basic line, we've got some swirls. It's very similar to mark making as well. And the reason why we're going to look at Zentangle in landscapes is because a lot of these marks, we can look at the landscape for inspiration when we're creating them. It also will help us with creating distance in our work too. All right, so what I want you to try and focus on is as you are in the foreground, which is here and here, your marks are probably going to be a little bit further apart. And then as you start to go towards the distance, then they will get a little bit closer together, and then even further into the distance, they'll get even closer together. So maybe you can try and have a little bit of a play with that as well. Okay, usually Zentangle artwork is drawn on small pieces of paper called tiles, and then the reason why they're called tiles is because you then assemble them into mosaics. So if 20-30 people of you in one class, one session, you all created these landscapes, you would do them quite small on pieces of paper, and then you would put them together to create a mosaic. So if you want, you can either do it on an A4 piece of paper, or you can do them just about this size, which on an A4 piece of paper, you'd probably be able to do 4. All right, so instead of doing one landscape, why not do 1, 2, 3, and 4? And then you've got yourself a mosaic. Okay, so let's have a little look then. All right, these landscapes are supposed to be non-representational, which means that they are slightly unplanned. I don't expect them to look exactly like the image that you're trying to draw. It's the reason why it's called Zentangle is because a lot of people find it quite therapeutic, much like doodling. Okay, so what we're going to do is choose yourself a photo. Now, I have chosen a photo from a walk in Thirsk, or around Thirsk area. And what you want to try and do is have what we call a foreground, which is here, your middle ground, and the background. So this photo is quite good for that. That way, when we draw it here, you can draw your marks quite far apart, so they're really nice and big. And then they get a bit closer together here. And then they get even closer here. And then they're really close as we move up towards the horizon line and the sky. Okay, so what you do is very simply, you just draw out the basic parts of this drawing. All right, so for example, you would draw that line there. Now you can go to the nth degree and create more patterns if you want, more lines if you want. You would then draw this pattern here, this line, okay, etc. until you've got the basic line. So at this point, we don't really want to be putting in any of these trees. Okay, we just need to ignore all of that and spot the very obvious lines where it changes from background, middle ground, and foreground. Okay, so should we have a quick demonstration? All right, so if I'm going to copy that picture, I will do my drawing a little bit quicker than I probably would do if I was going to create a beautiful piece of artwork, but that is just so that the video is not 1 hour. Sorry, so the video is 1 hour long, less than 1 hour long, rather than it being 2, 3, 4 plus hours. Okay, so I hope you understand that. Okay. And so you can see how basic I'm drawing this, and as I say, for those of you that really like the idea of this, you could spend a bit more time on it if you want. Okay. And then you're matching it, you're trying to get it in where you think where it's supposed to go in. All right, so you can see where there's a little bit of a green patch here. I've tried to put it in where I think it is in the right place. Okay, in true Blue Peter style. All right, you carry on drawing until you've got all the lines in. And we have got, there we go, yeah, it's that way. And you've got your landscape. So here, I've outlined it to make it a bit easier for you to see. You can see this foreground line, and you can see the trees up here. So as I say, it's an unplanned sketch. All right, now looking at the foreground and all the shapes, the marks that you can see. Now it might be at this point ideal for you to get some Zentangle patterns either on a computer in front of you, your phone in front of you, okay, just so that you've got a little bit of inspiration. It is unplanned. It doesn't matter too much if you can't see circles and you want to put some circles in. All right, let's just have a bit of a relax with this one. Okay, so in this corner here, on my landscape, I can see quite a lot of wavy lines. So here, getting a bit of inspiration, I am going to draw in wavy lines in the direction that the plants are going in. I think it was quite a windy day when I took that photo, especially up there. So a few little dots. And I'm messing around with a few ideas. These could maybe represent the seeds in the landscape. Okay, that's my first one. Looking at it again, the lines are a little bit more kind of jaggedy, so I think I might draw a few little kind of like waves, spikes. I'm trying to get the Zentangle pattern idea here, but I'm also trying to make sure that I'm creating that kind of flow with the wind too. In between that, I'm going to do some lines so it looks like broken up grass. And in this one, do the same again here. I want to make it look a little bit more windy, so draw a few more lines there. And this time I went that way with my diagonal lines, so I'm going to go the other way. Can you see? I am working quite quickly, but at the same time I'm working thoughtfully too. And I'm going to keep coming back to that unplanned aspect of Zentangle. If you change your mind, if you just think one pattern is going to work with another, then please feel free to change it slightly. And going to change it again, the direction again. I don't really like, at this point, these large sections, but I'm worried that if I add too much into them, then there's going to be too much detail and all my marks are going to be a little bit closer together, and I need them to be a lot closer together here. So for now, I'm just going to leave it. You can see how my shapes have started to evolve a little bit more. Right, and I would carry along all the way to this side. Okay, but I'm just going to move into this bit here so that I can show you how to kind of make your Zentangle marks a little bit closer as we move towards the middle ground. Okay, so here I've got quite a kind of strange tree here, so I'm going to draw my lines quite close together. I'm going to try and mimic the branches of the tree. Now you can create more complicated Zentangle patterns if you want, or you can do quite simple ones like I'm doing here. So again, have a little look and get some research going on about Zentangle patterns. And we've got some smaller, the bush changes here, so I'm going to change my pattern so the tree kind of comes around this direction. So I'll keep building my almost like seashell kind of patterns down here to show the tree. I can always change my colours as well, but then it changes into quite a small bush or shrub. So I'm just going to draw my circles in here to show that it has changed. You can change the size of your circles as well, or the size of your shape, because it's not every leaf isn't exactly the same size. At the moment I'm working quite quickly, but what I'm going to do is show you in a second how to move on to the next stage. Okay, which is where you maybe outline your work and start adding a little bit of colour. Alright, so I've now got a little bit more of a change again. So as we move along, just work a little bit quicker, just to get the marks in place. The slower you are with the pencil, the easier it's going to be when it comes to outlining with your pencil, your felt tip or your pencil crayon. Okay, and what I'm now going to do is it's still quite circular, alright, still quite spherical. So I am going to have a go at doing some swirls. I don't want to change the pattern. You see here, you've got the seashell element, you've got the circles. Okay, and now I'm just going to try and mimic this a little bit more by adding in our swirls. So I'm still keeping to the same kind of pattern because it's the same kind of bush, but again, you don't have to, you can change it completely. Okay, so if we kind of imagine that I've gone all the way along there, all right, with my spirals, my different marks, etc, etc. I'm now going to move into the distance even more, again to show you how to make these marks even closer together. Okay, and I'll also go into the background before showing you what else we can do. All right, so here around the lake we've got little trees. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw them in as little spirals, and if they little lollipops, and if they overlap, they overlap. Okay, but I'm not going to worry about covering all of the background because I think I'm going to shade that or almost like cross hatch that in. Again, just be free. Okay. And then we've got here the fields, all right, in the background. We've got a lot of trees, but we've also got the fields, and they're quite difficult to do, all right. But what I would suggest is follow the lines. So if I draw some of these in. Now, I'm not going to draw in every single field here, okay, because I just feel that that might be a bit too overkill. I need to draw some small ones because we are in the distance, all right. But again, I'm not gonna go too crazy with this because at the end of the day, it is unplanned. Okay, Zentangle does not have to be realistic. Come from this direction, okay. And now, because I've put my my fields in, I'm going to separate these. A lot of them are separated by trees, so I'm just going to separate them with circles. You can be a little bit more imaginative than me and separate them by waves or lines or dashes, and I'm just going to then put in lines, cross-hatching lines. And to separate the fields, okay, I'm going to change the direction of my lines. Okay, and I don't want every single field to be separated with circles because it's not always. So I'm just going to make maybe a thicker line there. So with my black pen in a second, I'll maybe do a thick line there and separate that one by trees and then the other by just a solid black line. Okay, now when it comes to the sky, you could do spirals for clouds, right? Or you could just paint it. Okay, it's completely up to you. You could just paint it as a solid blue or shade it as a solid blue. You could put a little sun in there if you wanted to. Again, just use your imagination. All right, so what we do now is you need to get yourself a really thin pen. Now for this, I'm trying to think about what you would have at home. I'm just going to use a black biro. All right, Zentangle, if we take a look here, all right, Zentangle, they don't always have to have a white line, a black line. All right, but because I'm on this video, I'm going to separate mine by a black line so that you can definitely see it. All right, and then I'll add colour. You're more than welcome to do that. You could also look at these lines here and you can see where they're using the lines as a guide, but then maybe they rub them out at the end. All right, also, you don't have to draw your patterns in pencil first. If you are quite confident with what it is that you want to do, you could just draw them straight in with your coloured pen. All right, so with my black pen, all I'm now going to do is carefully, I'm just going to outline my patterns. Okay. A black fine liner or a very thin black pen would work incredibly well. Alright, so if you've got one of those at home, that would work a lot better, because with a black fine liner, can you see, in order to make sure that I am pressing, so make sure that my lines are solid, I'm having to go over them a few times. It's almost like I'm sketching with the black pen. I will just complete this section here, show you how to do it, and then I'll leave you to get on with your own. You see here, I'm going over my pencil lines. But sometimes I'm missing them, so I'm changing the shape ever so slightly as I'm outlining it. As I say, for those of you that are really, really confident, there's absolutely no harm in you just getting a black pen and doodling straight into it. Do not feel that you have to start with a pencil first. If you've got those lovely thin fine liner felt tips, you could use those. You could just start your pattern straight away. It's quite a nice thing to do whilst you're sat in front of the TV, relaxing, listening to music. Nice little chill out. If you've got quite a lot on, you can maybe do this between tasks. 10 minutes on one job, and then move on to another job. Before you move on to another job, you could do 10 minutes of Zentangle Landscapes. Get yourself nice and relaxed. Do an hour of your other work. And then come back to this, so it doesn't have to be done all in one go. Okay, so if I focus on this section now, all right, now I'm just going to do this in black. The same applies to the rest of the page. Okay, so I just put my lines in. You see I'm being a little bit more controlled with my lines now. That's just so that I get them in. Again though, they can still be spontaneous. They don't need to be perfect. But if you want to get a ruler and make them perfect, then please feel free to do so if that's how you prefer to work. But feel free to let yourself go a little bit as well. Work with spontaneity. Okay, and I'll just do one more. Now, on this next bit, you don't have to, if you don't want to, add colour. Okay, you could carry on, just outline all of your work. Just make sure, if that's what you are going to do, that you do have thick lines, thin lines and medium lines. So you've got a varied weight of line. And the reason why you do that is because it shows distance. All right, so where you maybe think your shadows are around your trees, you would use quite a thick, maybe a thicker line, or your marks would be a lot closer together. All right, where there's quite a lot of detail, then you would draw finer lines, taking care to try and make them a little bit more precise. So if we just take a little look here, can you see on this example that there is a really thick line here? Okay, all the way around. It's almost like outlining the most obvious shape. We've then got our really thin lines inside that shape. Okay, in order for you to enhance and develop your skill further, we take a look at this one. You see here, you've definitely got a thick line where it's outlining everything. Here and here where there's a bit more shadow. There's also your thicker lines here. Then you've got your really thick lines to create that definite shadow in the distance maybe. You've also got another thick line here. And then you've just got your normal line. All right, so make sure that you have got a variety of different lines. Okay, that's if you're just going to use a black pen. If you'd like to use colour, it doesn't matter what colours you use. You could be really prescribed, okay, and you could decide that you're going to copy the distance rules, so everything gets lighter as it goes off into the distance. Okay, like this one here. You see, it starts off darker, and as it goes off into the distance, it gets a bit lighter, the colours get lighter. All right, so it's dark green, medium green, and it goes a bit dark there, but it's probably casting a shadow. Then it's even darker with some blue, and then it's really bright here, light here. Okay, you could go that far, or you could just be nice and spontaneous with your pencils like this one here. Okay, so all we do is before you start colouring with pencil, you need to rub out your pencil lines. Okay, now you can use pencil felt tips as well if you want. Okay, you'll get more of a solid colour. If you've got watercolour pencil felt tips, then you can use, you can blend them a little bit more. Just be careful that you don't ruin your felt tips. Okay, so this bit here is green for me. I'm going to stick with a basic green. So I've got two different shades. I'm going to try and do some two-tone shading. So I'm going to start off nice and dark at the bottom or to one side, and then I'm going to gradually build up, getting lighter. Okay. I would strongly advise that you have a go at shading if you're going to add colour rather than doing block colour, but it's all dependent on your individual skills, of course. Okay. And swap. And then just add a bit of your lighter green into the dark green where it's faded upwards to light, from dark to light. You're probably applying the same amount of pressure at this point. Okay. Pressing on nice and hard so I can get the full colour of the pencil shining through. Okay, and I feel that in the background of these lines here, maybe I could go for a blue with a bit of green. Okay, alternate. It'd be pretty hard to get a bit of shading in here at this present moment in time because they are very, very tight together. Okay. And I get my dark green. The sharper your pencil crayon, of course, then the more control you're going to have, and the more you'll be able to shade. Okay. And as you start to add colour into this, you will be able to work out where maybe you think, well, actually, do you know what? I want to put something else in here. So maybe with your pencil crayon, afterwards, when you've finished, you add a few circles in there. All right, that's probably something that you do right at the end or when you finish this particular section, okay? And just to make sure to calm down that blue, because it's a completely separate blue to this green, I'm just going to go over all of what I've done there to add the same kind of shade of green on it. Okay, and you can see there, it's probably that represents the gaps in between the big blades of grass. And you just apply that to the whole page, the whole landscape, until you've got something that looks like that. Okay. Instead of using a black pen, okay, you can outline with pencil crayon first. So if this was going to be a light shade of green, you could outline with a dark shade of green around the edge. That just might take you a lot longer. If you've got felt tips, really thin, fine felt tips, then you can outline around the edge with the colours that you're going to use on the inside. So say, for example, this was going to be yellow. You could get yourself an orange fine liner or gel pen, and you could outline it in that and then use the lighter colour inside. You would generally outline with the darker shade than what's in the actual shape. However, feel free to have a little mess around. Okay. So we'll end on this one here. So you can create it just shade with block colour and line. Absolutely 100% acceptable. You could do a line drawing like this, or you could add shading in like this one here. Have fun.